is happening, fellow fantasy GMs? I am JJ Wang. He is the bearded one, DJ Dub. And with our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
Okay, we are recording on Super Bowl Sunday. You probably aren't going to hear this till afterwards, or you're watching JJ Wang's hand all over the screen there.
Well, I gotta hit the button that I got the message that you started recording. So it takes
That's hilarious.
Look, I'm working very, very basic here. You gotta give me a break.
We're talking about before. We're working to get JJ Wang getting there. He's looking at new products, so we'll have him back and bigger than ever. Until now, you get us, and our phones. We were talking before. Phones are pretty stinking good. That while you're looking up stuff, your phone picture looks almost as good as my computer picture, if not better. To be honest, I mean, we do have faces for radio, but you look a lot clearer than I do.
Yeah, I mean, these phones, you can do pretty much anything you want. Like you said, you don't really need a laptop anymore if you just want to do everything on your phone. But doing everything on your phone is kind of a pain in the butt that I've noticed. So.
Yeah, so before I tangented there, but yeah, you've probably watched the Super Bowl where hopefully it was a great game, but we're not a Super Bowl podcast, so we're recording early before the Super Bowl because we want to see the Super Bowl, get some childness, hang out with our families and whatnot. But I have some amazing, awesome, excited news for this. Was my week, man. This was my highlight week. It's Super Bowl Sunday. And I am wearing a Dolphins shirt for those that are watching because my favorite player in the history of football is now a Hall of Famer.
I heard somebody talking about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Zach Thomas, my favorite player, for no other reason than he's like the stocky, stout linebacker. I mean, he was my favorite. I loved watching that Dolphins team with that defense. Him and Jason Taylor just wreaked havoc on everybody. He was 5-year All-Pro. I could go through stats all day, but I don't want to bore you all. Not that he had this kick return stat. I have all sorts of stats all over the board. I'm not going to waste time, but I was very excited this week. He's my favorite player. He was a Dallas Cowboy for a year. Like in his later years, he was marred with some injuries as he got on, because when you're an undersized linebacker who just hits the snot out of people, there will be some injuries throughout time. But it was his 4th year on, and I was just, if my team can't win a playoff game as with me being an adult, you know the feeling. We're both in the same pain as you're a Cowboys. Then I'm going to celebrate. I talked to my wife and said, I wonder how much a ticket to go see him get into the Hall of Fame would be, because that would be awesome. It'd probably be close to the same weekend as the National Podcasters. There's a National Podcasters thing up there in Canton. I think it's the weekend after, though. But yeah, so I was super amazingly stoked to hear that. So congratulations, Zach Thomas. You're always welcome on the show. Always.
Yeah, anytime you want to come on, man, we'll put you over, dude. You're the greatest linebacker of all time. No, I can't say that. But yeah, congratulations. He's a great player. One of the top linebackers when he played. So yeah, I wasn't a huge fan. I'm not a Dolphins fan, but yeah, you could always count on Zach Thomas making plays.
Yeah, it was just a fun. When we had no offense, but we had great defense. We just can't balance. Teams have that problem throughout history. So yeah, so we're hopping into. I think the big news really of the week is right now Derek Carr is shopping. It sounds like that he will probably be a Saint. How does that make you feel about the Saints if Derek Carr goes to the Saints this week?
Well, I mean, I think Derek Carr's still a good quarterback. I mean, Devontae Adams had a great year last year, so if the receiver is good, he got a good receiver in Olave. So, I mean, Waller was usually always good, so that bodes well for the tight end group there. Juwan Johnson. So yeah, probably going to throw a lot. Kamara is probably not going to be there, so the receivers are going to be better than the running backs. So I mean, I think it's a good setup.
Yeah, I think it's because it sounds like it's almost a foregone conclusion. He visited. I mean, something could change because you can't really officially do anything for a few weeks. But what they're talking about now is the compensation, because he's not willing really to give up any money, and it's got to be done before. We're recording on the 12th. It's got to be done the 15th when that guaranteed kicks in, and but he doesn't sound like he is going to. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh, I'm looking up one of my guys' nicknames. I don't know if I can say it on the air, but so yeah, so we are in. Last week we're in JJ Wang's baby. This is his baby. Wow, my brain just fried. The Top Guys
Road to
episode.
the top guy. Road to the
Yeah.
top guy.
So this week is further down the road to the top guys. We're going to list our last 5 top guys that we're going to start with on a list that is very fluid. We'll revisit it each month. We'll have a top 10. Our top 10 might adjust. People might leave. People might come. There'll probably be some rookies popping on there. There might be some guys that were like, wow, we just got a little too excited about those guys. And it's looking like, oh, yeah, like I have Kenny Gainwell last week, and we were talking about him prior to the show. I got offered a trade from a good dude, and I was like, I'm probably going to push accept after this. But Kenny Gainwell could end up being a third down back, if they say draft Gibbs. I mean, Gibbs is Kenny Gainwell. If they draft a running back, or if they trade for him, or if they re-sign Miles Sanders to some stupid contract, which I don't think it'd be smart of them to do, but if he wins the Super Bowl for him, but that could pop him off my list in no time at all. So next week we will have our top 10 rundown, 10-1 for each of us. We'll post that on all of our social media. But yeah, in case you haven't figured out, we're the Fantasy Couriers. You can hit us up anywhere online. You can see our handsome faces on YouTube. Listen to us anywhere that podcasts are available. Share us, hit us up. If you have any questions, you know we're there. And let's get into this. We got our next 5 top guys. I still didn't make a top guys drop. I need to make one before next week, so we have an official top guy, so we use it for next year. It's been one of those kind of weeks and months and stuff. So it's your baby. I'm gonna let you go first because I think we all love your guy. Your guy's great. My guy's a little controversy this week.
Yeah, so like I said, these are just like the guys that I really enjoy watching, who I want on my teams. And so the first one, and probably guys in contention for the number 1 guy, that's Justin Fields. We all know why we love Justin Fields. We've seen it not the whole season last year, but the middle of the season. He started out really, really bad at the beginning, got injured there towards the end. But in the middle, I mean, everything just opened up. He was running, scoring touchdowns. Is way more efficient passing the ball. Not huge passing numbers, but efficient. The team's not good, so hopefully more help is coming. They need wide receiver help, offensive line help. Even with the defense, with the defense getting better, it's still going to help. It's still going to help the offense because you don't want to have Justin Fields won't have to do as much. But like for fantasy, he's the perfect fantasy weapon, Lamar Jackson style. A lot of rushing yards, decent passing yards. I mean, he's the ultimate weapon at this point.
Yeah, there is no argument there. Imagine if he gets that receiver that puts him over the edge and he starts passing. That dude has number 1 quarterback written all over him. There's no with those legs. I mean, as he gets older, he'll have to get smarter and not run as much so he doesn't get hit. I mean, he didn't get hit a lot really. There was no injuries yet, knock on wood. But yeah, I watched that Dolphins game when when McDaniels was like, "Could you just stop running?" Like you're too good, you're too much of an athlete. I mean,
I feel like there's at least one time in every game where he's going to get the opportunity to break a long one. Because I mean, it's hard to keep up with the offense when you got people just running around, and he'll catch one break, and I mean he's gone, and that's fantasy gold, just one play.
Hey, speaking of guys that catch one break and they're gone, my first guy.
Oh, look at you.
My first guy, you would never think seeing this dude, that this year he became a running quarterback, which if you go to Pro Football Reference, they give the guys nicknames. So my guys' nicknames are Danny Dimes, and I'm even hesitant to say the second one, but it's on Pro Football Reference, so I'm going to give it to Vanilla Vic. I was like, really? But Daniel Jones really took a amazing step this year. To see him, he only threw for 3,200 yards, but his interceptions were down. He only had 5 interceptions, but the rushing yards, that was the ginormously big thing for him this year. I mean, he ran, oh darn, they're not giving me the totals here on my site that I'm on. That stinks. But he had a 100-yard rushing game, a 79-yard rushing game. And it was just a stellar season for him, as I am struggling because I really want to know his rushing yards. So I go, but Daniel Dimes took that step. Dable hit him and took a hold of him, and he made the next step. And I think he's got if he rushes like that, he's going to be a solid top 8 quarterback next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're definitely looking at a QB1 here. I mean, I think more along the lines of like the Daboll effect, right? Dable just being named Coach of the Year. What did Dable do for Josh Allen? He turned Josh Allen into a complete stud. And what happens when Daboll leaves? Allen wasn't terrible, but he wasn't as good as he was. And then what happened when Daboll arrived with the Giants? Uh,
Yep.
Danny Dimes or whatever was a Vanilla Vic, turned into a top ten QB. So I think Dable helps out a lot, and as long as Dable's there, I think this is going to continue because I don't see the offense changing. So like the team gets better, his weapons get better, it's only going to help. It's kind of like the same thing as Justin Fields,
Mhm.
pretty much. So
I
we'll
think he's I
see.
think he's got more with him now, which is why he was good this year. Like I think he has more pieces currently than just I think Justin Fields has
Yeah,
decent running backs. Like Khalil Herbert are probably the one. He's a good running back. Komet is a good tight end. The receivers, he's got a great number two, and Claypool is the underperforming man of the year. 708 yards is how much he ran for this year, so that's pretty stinking amazing. And just to make you feel old, Daniel Jones was born 3 weeks before we graduated high school. So
don't make me feel old at all, man.
I'm going to do my next two in a combo because it's going to be the Homer picks. But I originally, when I did the list, I had Jalen Waddle on here because I could see him taking the next step. But then I added Tua just because of a lot of the stuff coming out, just because I want to see you just puke a little bit, see you. I've got this stat here for you. There's a quarterback who threw for 6,691 yards in his first 27 games, 551 completions, 62% completion, 47 touchdowns, and 40 interceptions, and with a 12-15 record. Do you know who that was?
I don't know. I'm sure it's some great quarterback.
Some great quarterback, probably my favorite quarterback in the last 20 years before Tua, Peyton Manning, or other than Drew Brees, Peyton Manning. Tua through his first 27 games. He has
Oh my god.
6,800 yards, 621 completions, 44 touchdowns, 16 interception, and a 69.7 completion rate. If Tua's head doesn't jiggle, Tua is right there with Daniel Jones based upon the weapons, based upon the passing for that team. He's probably a guy that's not gonna drop out. He's healthy now. They held him out as a precaution. He went to like a gajillion doctors, and he's their QB1 next year. So barring any weird trade or something ungodly that we can't fathom, he is a QB1 in a high-powered offense with a defense that should improve next year, which can only help him in his next year. And he'll be throwing to two studs. I could have put Tyreek, I could have put Jalen. I went with the youth, just looking future because we're in dynasty brain right now. And so Jalen Waddle last year had quietly, I don't know how this happened. Like I did not think his season was this good. We've talked about it, but he had 1,356 yards on 75 receptions. So, but he disappeared. He did that DK Metcalf kind of thing. So if they look at the offseason and go, yes, he had the yards, but he seemed like a better player that latter part of his rookie year. Or when he got those 100. So once he got situated the rookie year, if they start thinking about that, make him back to the possession receiver, that's no guarantee, which is why he might slide for me on the top 10 list. But if he gets to that possession receiver, imagine add 25 more catches to that. And he had 8 touchdowns, which is still pretty stellar. You could, once again, the Dolphins could easily, I could be celebrating next year with 2 top 12 receivers easily just because of McDaniels. Unless people really, really figure him out, like it looked like they did towards.
Hell yeah. I mean, if you're celebrating with 2 top 12 receivers, then you're probably celebrating with a QB1, 2 Dolphins.
Super
Well,
Bowl.
so I'm not going to go into my tangent on everybody knows how I feel. He's your guy. He's your guy. Waddle, I like Waddle. It's your guy. That's your guy. I mean, it's your list. I mean, these are your players. I'm not all aboard the Tua train, but we'll see how that goes.
I love your next guy. So
Uh, my,
you get your 2 for running backs.
so we'll go with my. Okay, I didn't know who I had in next. So my running backs. So the first one is a guy that was drafted a few years ago. Has been completely up and down. People said he was bad. People say he's good. Uh, and that's Cam Akers. I've managed to keep Cam Akers on a couple teams. I have a hard time getting rid of him because I like the guy so much coming out. He went to Florida State. Thought he's got these flashes of brilliance. Last season happened. We all thought he was getting traded. We didn't know where he was going to end up. Then Henderson ends up getting traded, and he ends up finishing the last couple of games as like, top 10 running back. And I'm like, oh, so maybe if this is how he goes into next season, I think we maybe have a top 12 or RB1 possibility here with Sean McVay still coming back. The offense hopefully gets a little better. maybe the offensive line gets a
Be
little
worse.
better.
Can't
But
that team
yeah,
be worse?
he's going if he's I think he's definitely healthy. He's going to be the workhorse. I know they got Kyron Williams to get some passes, but I think he's going to be running the ball a lot, and I think there's potential here for RB1.
I'm an Akers guy. I only reason I sold Akers in one of my leagues was 2 years ago, right before he had the Liz Frank, and that was because I was getting a trade to get Zeke for his touchdown prowess and a couple other guys. So I got some talent in there and had to give away my youth guy. But yeah, it looks like he really did just need that extra time to come back from the injury, which, I mean, he did not look good. You're talking what, 2.5, 2.4, something like that yards per carry. Then all of a sudden, if you had Cam Akers and you were, I mean, that's what he won you our one
Yeah.
league where you and I were in. He was one of the key cogs. He took me in a league where I have all those first round picks. He was dead all year. I was already out of the league. I'm in the playoffs scoring more points than everybody in that league. Like I was the highest scoring team for the last month and a half because Cam Akers blew up. Now Matthew Stafford healthy, Cooper Kupp healthy, all those pieces around there. There's no, and he won't have the pressure, so he won't be like some of these guys who will be on a team where there's nothing else. And so you're
And they
looking
don't.
at,
I don't think they have. I don't think they have any draft picks either. So I
oh
don't
no,
think you have to worry about drafting a running back. I mean, I think the
yeah.
workload is pretty
Pacheco's
much run.
available really late, so maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm on board with you. I think he proved it right there at the end. If nothing else, that at least this year he's gonna. It'll be. I'm curious to see where he's gonna fall in drafts. If people are gonna be like loving Cam Akers or going, hey, 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 fool me once. I think he'll be drafted too high, which I might draft him too high because we both I think are big fans of Cam Akers, and I mean it's a Sean McVay offense. It's like wanting a 49ers running back. You want a Rams running back because the way they run, even in a system, they're just so good. Go for it, number two.
Yeah. So my next guy, talked about this guy a few weeks back, and that's James Cook, part of the Buffalo Bills offense. Offense is really good. I mean, I do feel like at some point Josh Allen has to stop carrying the load the way he does. The offense put it on his shoulders. Like every play has to be made by him. At some point, I think you got to open it up and let your running backs actually do the running back work. And these guys, he is still splitting with Singletary. The duo's a good duo together. I mean, I think they complement each other pretty well. Cook can catch the ball and he can run the ball. I probably think like a 1,000 combined yardage type guys and some touchdowns. I don't think the workload is not going to be necessarily his, but I think as Josh Allen maybe releases some of the workload towards these running backs, I think his role expands. He came on really strong at the end of last year, and I can't see it really changing for the worst at this point. I think it still can only go up
Hey,
from here.
great news! I just looked this up because I had thought about it. Did you know there's a possibility he could be RB1? Singletary is an unrestricted free agent.
Oh yeah, there we go.
I didn't even
I
know
did
that.
not
Like I
know
was, I
that.
just
Yeah.
wanted to check that because I was like, has he been in the league long enough? But yeah, he's an unrestricted free agent. I mean, the Bills, since he knows the system is in there, and he probably won't be expensive. Probably, I would say they should sign him back at like not some ridiculous Josh Jacobs kind of deal like he's gonna get, but they could. I mean, last year he was making uh $2,500 Is that I forget what it was. Yeah, it wasn't a lot. $2,500, $2,500,000. So that's for a running back. Yeah, I'd pay him that to be on that team to have them both be a Thunder and Lightning. But if not, he could be gone, and they could let Cook step up because he looked really good towards the end of the year, and then they're gonna bring in someone else because any coach who has half a brain is gonna bring in.
Well, speaking of that, this is really the only thing that could really get me off of James Cook. This is what. So they got like the 28th pick, 27th
Bijan.
pick is Bijan Robinson. I don't know if he's still going to be there. He might go probably earlier than that. Right now they got him in like the middle of the first round, which is really high for a running back. But Bijan, I mean, Bijan is really good. So that was my only fear. So I mean, if that happens, Cook probably falls off the list because Bijan is the workhorse running back. He's going to get every carry and probably most of the catches as well. So, but until that point, Cook is on my list and I'll stay there.
What would Gibbs do for you? Because Gibbs is like Cook. They would be the same, kind of like what they have now. They'd be the same thing.
Well, I don't think Gibbs is going to go in the first round, and I think Gibbs will be gone before they came back around in the second. So I don't think
Well, I don't know if
Gibbs
they
is
would Clyde
really.
Edwards-Helaire reach on him kind of deal because they're like, hey, we're here, our team's really good. Let's just take.
I mean that would affect it too because I mean I think Gibbs is probably a better version of Cook. Maybe I'm not 100
Yeah,
percent
right.
sure on that. Maybe on the same level,
Splitting hairs
but
almost.
I don't want two of the same players on a team. That's gonna hurt both of them. I mean it'd be detrimental for both players.
It helps Josh Allen, but doesn't help them at
Yeah,
all. So my next guy is some guy that we haven't talked about for a while. He's a guy I really liked. I was excited for the season, and then he got hurt. It was probably a good year. If you are going to hurt yourself and you're a running back for the Denver Broncos, Javonte Williams is kind of like, I'm glad I didn't have to sit through this mess. It was a terrible year. We were coached terrible. Russell Wilson forgot how to play football, and I was looking to have a promising year after rookie campaign, 203 rushes for 900 yards, didn't get a lot of touchdowns, had 43 receptions. So we're like, okay, cool. And he started out. I mean, in 4 games he had 16 receptions, 204 yards. So it wasn't anything spectacular, but he was looking like he was starting to get that step up. And then that game, he looked really good at the start of that game, and then bam, he's down for the year. But he's going to come back. He will have had almost an entire minus 11 months off, which should be good these days with the way they do the surgeries. I haven't heard anything out of the ordinary about his surgery that when he had it, and he's young, and he's a good 5'10", 220 bruiser on a team that I think I might have been a year ahead on the Broncos. You throw Sean Payton in there, you have all those weapons and a healthy Javonte Williams, and they find someone else to back him up because I doubt they're going to use Latavius Murray again. That I think Javonte Williams, he could be one of my top 10 that guys this year.
yeah. I mean definitely with Sean Payton in there. We all see how Kamara looked with Payton. I mean Payton always has like a top running back option on the team. They run well. The offense is good. I mean, a better running game can only help Russell Wilson. I mean, it can only help the receivers. Helps Jerry Jeudy. So again, I'm rooting for Javonte Williams. Evidently, I'm rooting for the Broncos big this year. I mean, I didn't even realize it. But hey, but yeah, I like Javonte Williams. If he comes back healthy, you said he'll have almost a full year. That's pretty much normal these days. Just it's a matter of how long it takes him to get into like feeling. They say like feeling secure with his knee. I'm not an athlete, so I have no idea. So, but yeah, I mean, if he comes back, I can't. The work is going to be his, and they don't have many more options.
So your next guy, and then we're going to close out with the greatest position in football, is one of those guys that would fall into my list of guys almost no matter how they are will not be on the team because he's done me over too many times. My wife, because he couldn't catch any balls on Thursday night one game, my wife missed out on her over under and underdog. And because when I had him on my teams, he was just a pile of poo. But statistically, stellar. If he was
Yeah,
on
I
my
mean,
Dolphins team, stellar. But he will never be on my fantasy team. Go for it.
yeah, I
Tell me
mean,
who it is.
that's Brandon Ayuk. He quietly finished as wide receiver 15, which is crazy. Almost as crazy as Devonta Smith finishing like wide receiver 10, which is also crazy. But I mean, I like Ayuk, but I understand that the ceiling is kind of capped with the offense that they run. Of course, they went through 3 different quarterbacks this year. That hurt. They can't really get settled in on one. They brought McCaffrey in. That kind of hurts. But with all that, um, and clear the quarterback play is the worst. I mean, he still finished as wide receiver 15. Now it's not like spectacular. Some of the games are pretty ugly. I mean that's just part of his game.
And the
But
team.
but at the end of the year, it's still solid wide receiver 2 type player that you want on your team because I don't want to say consistency is there, but you see where he finishes at the end of the year. It's quiet and you don't see it, but I've liked him as pretty much since he's come out. And I think the offense gets better if they can find one quarterback play the whole season.
Yeah, and I mean, the knock on him always he crossed 100 yards once by 1 yard. He is basically going to be your 5 or 6 catches for 80 yards. That's pretty much if you look at it, it's sort of where it hits averages into. But yeah, he's it comes down to I think we both believe Trey Lance will be the quarterback, even though Kittle or someone on that team was saying, well, it's Purdy. Okay, sure. But Purdy's getting Tommy John surgery. So,
And going back to to the previous year, Trey Lance and Brandon Ayuk were like best friends. I mean, they were thrown together. It wasn't Trey Lance and Debo because that was when Debo was trying to get paid or coming off the injury or something. But I mean, it was Trey Lance and Ayuk was best buddies. They were in the offseason throwing passes. So I
Well,
feel like that bond can only get stronger, and just praying Trey Lance is good and
and
Ayuk.
yeah, because that's why I did a startup last year, and I drafted Lance and Ayuk, and then I got a chance with Trevor Lawrence. So I threw all of them away and said, heck with it. But I mean, and it depends on the 49ers too. I've heard some commentators even say if they really want to win, who is the winningest quarterback for the 49ers in the last couple of decades? That's Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is not your sexy pick, but Jimmy Garoppolo wins with the 49ers. I don't have it up here, but it just came to my mind while we were talking. But his win percentage with them is stinking amazing. The way they've played since he's been there with him, it's like a super high percentage win rate, but he gets hurt. So I was like, do you want to play with that or do you want to try the new hotness in Trey Lance? But yeah, it depends upon what Debo does. If Debo he wanted to be a receiver, okay, cool. That's going to hurt Ayuk. So it'll be an interesting year to see. I wish him all the best because I kind of like the 49ers, which I shouldn't because they're my brother's team, and there's that sibling rivalry stuff. But it is what it is. So we're going to wrap up this episode with the greatest position in fantasy football, tight end.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm going back to back here, but I just
You guys are good.
a couple of tight ends that I do like. So this guy, I'm going with Pat Freiermuth here, part of the Steelers. He did have concussion issues last year. I mean, that could be an issue. I am a little worried about that, but I think part of that offense, he's going to be Kenny Pickett's favorite, best friend. That underneath guy. He's a big target, good for touchdowns. And he does have, George Pickens over the top. So I feel like the middle is completely his. Najee Harris isn't catching as many passes.
Or running anything.
Even with the injury riddled season, he was a top 10 tight end. Doesn't take much. But, playing a full season, Kenny Pickett getting 1 year better, offense getting 1 year better. I think top 5 potential is here, but I think it's going to rely heavily on touchdowns, though.
Yeah. I mean, weren't you tight end 11 this year?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, so you're not saying
I got my plaque in the mail the other day.
I say, I mean, I love Pat Freiermuth. I'm with you on that. I mean, realistically, I love the tight end position, but in fantasy football, there's probably about 6 that I would want to have, and after that, I just have like 3 dumpster fires on the end of my bench, to be honest. And that probably could be a list we'll talk about during the off season. But yeah, so he's in there, and the tight end I chose, I wasn't going to put him on here, but I was like, wait a second, I love this dude. I like the possibility of what's going to happen next year with him, and that's Chigakonkwo. And I've talked about him ad nauseum. I liked him last August with the athletic profile he came in. He's a big dude, 6'2", 244, and he broke a bunch of passes. Like his stats are skewed because he had that. He had against Kansas City 1 catch for 48 yards. The next week 1 catch for 41, and 1 for 31. Then everything else sort of balanced out to be at like a 10-yard or whatever per catch. But that means that athletic profile is there. And on that team, apparently he can block because they let him play some more on a running team. So if he can get consistent quarterback play, I mean, I fully expect Tannehill to be their quarterback next year. Tannehill, but if you look at Tannehill, we're looking for it from this, not from liking the Steelers, the Titans or anything, but Tannehill likes the tight end. You look at the previous couple, like you got, I'm brain farting on all the guys, but all those tight ends prior to Chig were guys that were getting because Tannehill can't throw that far.
Tannehill is like the blandest quarterback ever. At some point, you
was Kirk Cousins, but he was a top.
You got to move on from this guy, right? God,
Money says they can't, though. Money says they can't. So that I think
they can.
The money they have. Let's see, Ryan Tannehill's.
If you're at the point in your life where you can't move on from Ryan Tannehill, something needs to be worked on in the office.
Well, when you get a guy in the NFL, the problem is you got, think about what they gave to Joe Flacco. He was the Christian Kirk of quarterbacks. So
did Joe Flacco win a Super Bowl?
before he wanted that, but
It doesn't matter. Joe Flacco's for. I give Joe
since
Flacco
Ryan Tannehill has been with this team, this team's has turned around. Yeah, they're
around
stuck with
what
him.
regular season.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The thing
Ooh,
is, yeah, you know what? Dead cap money if they drop him this year is 9.2 million. He's their quarterback. Next year it's
9.2 million.
4.6.
That's like
That's
chump change to these
no, that's
guys.
dead cap money. So that means of their 160 or whatever thousand million dollars, that's how much is gone if they decide they don't want to play. So I think
I
they'll
would
keep him
lose
this year.
9 million if it meant getting Ryan Tannehill
Yeah,
off
last year
my
it was
team.
18 million. So dead cap money's coming down. So next year it's only 4.6 that they might drop him, but I'm pretty sure he's stuck there this year. But the point being though is he is a drop down guy, and Okonkwo is a heck of an athlete. So as Tannehill's noodle arm gets noodly,
How
Okonkwo
much more noodly do we need to get before he's not on the field anymore?
4.5 million more. I mean, I can't say that Malik Willis, who we both loved, looked any.
Right, I'm not saying he's the answer either
So,
by any stretch of the means. But you
I
know what I
wish
would
he
do?
was. I wish he
I'd
was.
draft another quarterback, and then I would draft another quarterback. I would draft a quarterback every year until I find one.
Yeah, I miss Steve McNair. God rest his soul. Um, so yeah, so those are our new five guys. I had Jones, Tua, Javante Williams, Jalen Waddle, and Chigakonkwo. JJ Wang had Fields, Akers, the little younger cook, Ayuk, and Fryermuth. Next week we will give you our top 10 in order, and maybe even throw in a couple honorable mentions so we can fill the full half hour. We'll see how it goes. But JJ Wang, rope us out with some wisdom, and let's rock and roll.
Super Bowl Sunday, man. I hope everybody has fun. Be careful. I still feel like Super Bowl Sunday should be Super Bowl Saturday night. I feel like it'd be much better for everybody. There's nobody. I wouldn't have to go to bed at 8:30 because I gotta get up and go to work in the morning. It just doesn't make any sense. I guess I'm not part of the business, but like I said, good luck to both teams. Really hope Patrick Mahomes doesn't win. I think he will, but I hope he doesn't. Like the Eagles win. I don't want them to win either. Just hope they both lose. That's what Christian McCaffrey said. Christian McCaffrey said he hopes they both lose. I'm on that train as well. I hope it's a good game. But yeah, as always, trust yourself and trust the process.